Welcome back. Today what I want to talk about is casting a sinking line, how the differences between a sinking line and a floating line. And the biggest difference is that the sinking line is much heavier and it sinks through the water as a floating line would float on the surface, obviously. But there's a lot of differences when you cast these lines. And first and foremost, as you can see, you generally have, I've got a bigger fly on here. That's the first thing that makes it harder to cast, is because the weight of the fly can frequently outweigh the weight of a floating line. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions in our business, is that floating lines are easier to cast with big flies because the line's not clunky. And that is such a crock. It's completely the opposite. That is, people who tell you that stuff don't really fish streamers, and they don't do it with sinking lines. And so what I want you to see is how we pick these up from the beginning, because there's 2 or 3 things with a streamer that you just don't do. One of them is, at all costs, you try never to have a false cast. Never, you do it in one set. You're going to roll, pick up, cast, but when you've got a fly line that is, this particular is a Cortland 25-foot tip. It's a 7/8. It's 270 grains. That's a heavy line in a lot of respects, but they don't sink like people say. You know, you'll read the box and it says it sinks 6-8 inches a second. That's not true. That's only taking 1 foot of it, throw it in a pool, letting it go down like this. But when you have current and you start retrieving your line, that fly line can hover. It can go wherever you want it to. I routinely run 270s in 10, 20 inches of water. And one more thing about that is, I seldom really fish deep with streamers. 3 feet would be pushing the limit. Most of the time it's under 2. So on to the cast. So I'm going to start, I'm just going to clear this out here with the roll cast. And that's one of the first things I want you to understand. When you do this, you don't pick a fly line up. Given that you are, say you let it sink way down there, you never want to try to pick that sinking line up and go like this and cast it. Ideally, you pull it in to about 20 feet, 25 feet. You roll it out. That's your getting your line towards the surface. So you bring it out. You bring it up like this, and you get into the color change. You roll it out in front of you, single back cast, and shoot your line. It's just that easy. That was 35 feet of line without even blinking. I got a 25-foot head. And then I want you to see one more time. Bring it up. Roll, pick up. The second the fly hits the water, you do your back cast and you cast forward. Like all good roll casts, you stop your fly and then you go forward. Don't let your fly be coming at you and do that. It'll go straight in the air. With a roll cast done properly, dry line or wet line, it doesn't matter. You come up, you stop your rod and your fly, and then you do your roll. Again, if you're coming at yourself like this, it's going to kick your fly up in the air. So stop it and go, drift, cast. The roll pickup is designed to keep your line, get your sinking line up off the bottom so it's easier to cast. But another portion of that is when because I'm wade fishing right now, and a boat's not quite as big a deal, but if you're wade fishing, and I don't care if it's dry fly or if it's a wet line, you can't make radical changes from here to cast. So I want to cast over here. I can't start my line down here. To cast, I'd have to make this ridiculous. It's a heavy fly. It's a lot of fly. I don't want to wear it. I don't want to make big changes. So that's another aspect of the roll pickup. As you come from the bottom side here, you pick up, you roll it in front of you, same thing, and then set it out there. But you don't try to make a radical change with your cast. Just pick it up, single set. So you saw what I did. Just bring it in, straight below you, as deep as you want. You pick your fly up just like always, and just roll it in front of you. Go. It's super simple, but just don't try to do it without that roll to get the line. You always want your fly to start. If you're going that way, you prefer to have your fly in front of you there so it's a straight line when you're casting. You can't make radical changes in your direction without wearing the fly. Fly's in front of me, roll, pick up, and cast, no problem. And I've only got 20 feet behind me, so you can see how efficient that line is. This line just shoots out there. I'm not putting a lot of effort into it. I come in, I do my roll pickup, basically slip 3 feet of line and just go. And you'll notice that my arm's pretty low, everything's staying. I'm not getting up like this, running that line hard like this. It's an economy of motion. So I come up, roll pickup, take off backwards, and go like this. Not much effort. One more thing in that is you'll see I will not release my line with my left hand. Okay, this is one of the common mistakes. You're going to go out and sorry, I didn't release. This is one of the common mistakes. Roll pickup like this, throw the line. And when you do that, I'm going to show you what happens most of the time. One, you're not in position to start your retrieve, but more importantly, generally when people let go with their line, they go like this at the same time, and it wraps around their rod or the back of their line like that. Didn't happen that time, but it will this time. So, pick it up, bring it back, throw the line, and it goes across. Still didn't happen. Can't make it happen when I want to. All right, kill all that shit. So, pick it up, roll it, back cast, and keep your line in your left hand. All right? Another thing I want you to be aware of is where the start and stop point is. When you're casting a dry fly, you tend to go from 2 to 10 with abrupt stops, right? To let your line straighten out behind you. The problem with an abrupt stop with a sinking line is that the fly will kick down. When the line kicks down, you have automatically created a tailing loop. If you watch, I'm going to drift with my rod. I'll drift back here to almost 3 o'clock and then before I go forward. So the line's got lots of time, and I want the line to have a bigger loop. I don't want it to be tight. When you wear a tight line, or when you create a tight loop, you end up getting hit in the shoulder or the head. So, when you do it, now watch what I do here. I'm going to do the drift back to here, a little bit further than normal, and then I'm also going to drift some line, slip some line on my drift. So we do our roll pickup, just like that, slip some line about 3 feet, and go forward. That little bit of slip allows you to load your line to straighten out, or load your rod, I mean. Goes back, strip, down. A little tiny haul on your left hand. You don't have to be hauling like crazy because the line's going to load, and the line weight is what bends your rod right here. That's what delivers the fly. So we're going 40 feet. We're not working it at all, and we have very little effort. So it's a roll, pick up, drift, deliver. Piece of cake.